Hello everyone and welcome back to another fashion history video. In this new series, I thought it would be really nice to explore one historical fashion icon each month, and who better to kick things off with than the one and only Marie Antoinette. Let them eat cake, the infamous phrase that we've all heard. But there is much more to this fashion icon than meets the eye. Surrounded by love, hate, misunderstanding and intrigue, Marie Antoinette's journey and her approach to fashion continue to captivate us centuries later. So let's separate fact from fiction and dive into the fabulous world of this unforgettable fashion icon. In the 18th century, fashion changed from the extravagant Baroque style to the lighter Rococo style. This new style featured lace, ruffles, bows, and pastel colors like a cake, and these trends were set by the French court, which then spread across all of Europe. Marie Antoinette, the last queen of France before the French Revolution, greatly influenced fashion. She had a keen eye for fashion and loved to make statements with her outfits. One example is the pannier, a white skirt with a frame underneath. These could be as wide as 16 feet, which is about 5 meters large. Insane, right? And it was a show of wealth and status. The robe à la Française, popularized by Madame de Pompadour, was also very important. It had a less exaggerated shape, which still allowed for better mobility while showing off a corseted waist and a raised bust line. In the 1760s, Marie Antoinette introduced less formal dresses as well that were inspired by English and Polish styles that are called robe à la polonaise and robe à l'anglaise. These dresses included menswear elements such as long sleeves and short jackets too. Accessories were also very important. Gloves were used for ceremonies, and women used fans to communicate with potential suitors through a secret gestural language. In 1770, the then 14-year-old Marie Antoinette arrived to the French border in order to marry Louis XVI, and she was made to change out of her Austrian clothes into French attire, symbolizing her new role as the new French Dauphine, and she was told that nothing of Austrian origin could remain. Marie Antoinette faced challenges upon arriving in France. Her status was dependent on her ability to produce an heir. However, her shy husband did not consummate the marriage for 7 years. Louis XVI preferred to turn locks in a private forge and go hunting. His passive nature and their unresolved marital issues left Marie Antoinette uncertain and humiliated. Because as long as annulment was still possible, as she explained to her brother, she had to cultivate an appearance of credit with the king. Ambassadors across Europe monitored her menstrual cycles, highlighting the pressure on her to bear a child. And in response to this, Marie Antoinette cultivated this image of extravagance and glamour, emulating the fashionable mistresses rather than the demure queens that were kind of wallflowers. This bold move departed from the traditional expectations of a queen. She used fashion to gain power and influence in a court where she often felt powerless. Marie Antoinette initially followed the French norms of fashion. However, she soon found corsets and pannier skirts to be quite restrictive. One disapproving aristocrat even noted that she staged a veritable revolution in fashion. In one of her scandalous yet lesser-known fashion choices, she decided, after learning to ride, to abandon corsets and skirts altogether and started wearing riding habits and male breeches all the time, but drew condemnation almost immediately. Women of the era did wear riding breeches, however, they were hidden underneath skirts. This bold choice of Marie Antoinette was considered scandalous because at the time breeches were considered to compromise femininity as well as her ability to bear children. So her mother, Maria Theresa, warned her against this style in a letter. Riding spoils the complexion, and in the end, your waistline will suffer. If you're riding like a man, dressed as a man, I find it dangerous as well as bad for bearing children. After becoming queen in 1774, Marie Antoinette quickly embraced the country's passion for fashion. At Versailles, highborn ladies constantly changed their outfits. When Louis XVI was crowned king, Marie Antoinette took the opportunity to debut her new poof hairstyle, which had lots of scrutiny in the beginning, but then became a huge trend across Europe and one of the defining key elements of this fashion era. Marie Antoinette continued to make fashion statements with her ensembles, visiting Paris really often to meet with various designers. Rose Bertin, her trusted stylist and minister of fashion, helped her introduce the robe à la polonaise, which featured a figure-enhancing bodice and ankle-revealing skirt. Marie Antoinette's love of fashion greatly improved French economy and textile industry. Her patronage of Rose Bertin, who revolutionized haute couture, helped spread French fashion across all of Europe. Rose Bertin created these intricately dressed dolls to help keep the foreign ladies updated on the latest French fashions, and Marie Antoinette's support of fashion helped cement France's position as a capital of fashion into the 19th, 20th, and arguably even the 21st centuries. However, her lavish wardrobe contributed to her image as a spendthrift. Her own brother, Joseph II of Austria, once remarked that her elaborate wig was too lavish to bear a crown, highlighting the disconnect between her fashion and her royal duties. This eventually led to the monarchy's downfall and her tragic death at the guillotine in 1793. Marie Antoinette's lavish wardrobe earned her the nickname Madame Deficit. Many believed her to be responsible for France's financial problems. However, the American War of Independence had a much greater impact. Her Austrian origin fueled animosity, and her wardrobe expenses usually exceeded her allowance. While she sometimes tried to economize, her overall image as a spendthrift angered the public. Her wardrobe reflected her role as a fashion icon and a patron of the arts, supporting designers and the fashion textile industry. Rose Bertin created costly gowns and accessories for her, worsening her reputation as a reckless spender. In the mid to late 1780s, Marie Antoinette decided to change her style up a little bit and went for a simpler, English-inspired style, but she offended people with her new look because people thought that this new look was a far departure from the traditional court attire. She introduced what would later become known as the chemise à la reine, a muslin gown, simple and white, loosely belted at the waist with a silk sash and topped with a broad straw hat. This style sparked controversy and imitation because it conveyed a sort of power move and independence of a queen who doesn't really care what other people think. Her outfits sparked rumors of financial irresponsibility and an addiction to fashion, later coming to symbolize a betrayal of the people during the French Revolution. The robe en chemise, or as it became known, the chemise à la reine, became a top fashion trend by the end of the 18th century. It resembled an undergarment but had a defined waist and soft gathered skirt. The gown was accessorized with straw hats and a silk sash, and sometimes a lightweight fichu as well. Marie Antoinette and her closest circle of female friends wore these dresses and straw hats at the Queen's Hamlet, her rustic retreat, where they engaged in pastoral activities, small gatherings, and relaxing walks. Apart from a private escape, the hamlet also functioned as a real farm and a classroom of sorts where the women educated their children about nature. Marie Antoinette's approach to parenting is known to have been particularly ahead of her time and progressive. She actively taught, bonded with, and spent personal time with her children, and she extended her wisdom to the other women in her circle, advocating for practices like breastfeeding and nurturing bonds with their own children at a time when parenting was not at all seen the way we see it today. Despite its simple appearance, the chemise à la reine was very complex to make and required lots of care to even maintain. The fabric was imported from India and ruffles took a lot of effort to sew, and laundering this dress and keeping it in this pristine white condition was also a status marker. So it was still a wealth and status symbol due to all these efforts that were necessary in its creation and maintenance. In fact, one of the biggest scandals that happened to Marie Antoinette was when she wore this dress in an official portrait, which was very scandalous, of course, due to it resembling an undergarment. And Rose Bertin, who had previously even painted herself in the dress, was forced to repaint the queen in a more appropriate attire because it was still not seen appropriate for a queen to wear, and she was seen as being unpatriotic for choosing this imported fabric and no longer supporting the silk industry of Lyon, and it was seen as a queen that was dressing too simply and representing France badly in a way. Marie Antoinette used fashion to create her public image and defy societal expectations at times. Even facing execution, she remained dedicated to dressing for history. After her husband's execution, she wore black day and night, defying a Jacobin edict against black clothing. Though her clothing had become tattered and used, she made a final impression by obtaining a white chemise, a petticoat, morning dress, and bonnet. The white outfit symbolized pureness and innocence, contrasting with her fate. Her execution outfit, like her other fashion statements, symbolized her spirit and the turbulence of the era. By dressing for history one last time, she made sure that even her final moments were going to be remembered through history. Marie Antoinette is a very controversial icon even today, and a lot of French people still hate her, but we are all captivated by her history and story, and especially her fashion. I'm really interested to know your thoughts. I hope that you enjoyed this episode of Fashion Icons of History and you found it interesting. Let me know your thoughts on Marie Antoinette, her style, her influence, and the way she chose to live her life as a monarch. And if you enjoyed this video, please remember to give it a like, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please make sure to do so to get notified every time I upload a video. Stay tuned for the monthly uploads of Fashion Icons of History in this fashion history series. Take care of yourselves. See you in the next video. Bye!